Join me and my dad while we explore subscription boxes, the outdoors, gear and equipment, and other fun things and places. Before we get started, hit like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell. Ding! Thank you for watching.
Well, thank you for that amazing introduction, Miraculous Girl, and thank you everyone for joining us again here on Exploring It All. So today, as you can see, I have two knives out here, but we are doing the Through the Looking Glass series. Normally I only do one at a time, but today, because these two knives are the same model name, just of different eras, I thought we would go through them together and to make it a little bit more interesting, show some of the differences, because between these two knives, even though they have a lot of similarities and the same tools, a lot of them have, there are changes. So anyway, like I said, we're continuing our Through the Looking Glass series, a look at knives with the magnifying glass. And let's go ahead. And I got some notes off to the side. So if I have a couple of little pauses, I apologize. As I go through, I've been looking through these and all that. So right out of the gate here, like I said, these are from two different eras. The knife over here and I'm going to switch it around. The knife over here, this is a late 80s champion, and the knife over here is a fairly new, if not within the last few years, champion. So first I go through the scale tools, and as you can see, they both have the plus scales. So we have the ballpoint pen, and the ballpoint pen started in 1985. I believe it is a pressurized pen. They write, well, if you have a surface, it'll go down. And that's the old one, so obviously they write pretty good. And there's really no changes to that. We have the toothpicks, and again, other than one being a little cleaner than the other, and it looks like this one has a little divot on the side that this one doesn't have. This one has the same little bump in the middle though. And then on the back side, we have the tweezers, and these tweezers are the same. And I say that, but then it looks like there's a updated crease in the newer tweezer, which would be the one over on. This is the older one. This is the newer one right here. Looks like there's a different crease in it. This one seems to be creased down here, whereas this one is creased more up here. But the head and everything, gotta put it in right. The head and everything is the same on it. It's plastic. The tweezers, you know, the toothpick and tweezers, these tweezers are from 1978 is when these tweezers started out. All right, so next up we have our fine screwdrivers, and this is one of the first fine screwdrivers on the older one. And I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see it or not, but this, the end point is tapered on it. And for this, let's see, the micro screwdriver, this one ran from 1983, and the new one, which is hexagonal shaped, started in 2009. And as you may be able to see here, this has a more in the tip. It's not tapered at all. So, I can tell. There we go. And it is hexagonal shaped. Now, one big difference between these two models is the pin. It's a stainless steel pin, and the older model, this one does not even have the pinhole in the scale, although it is a plus scale. And so that means that this one here is after 91 is when they added that pin. And all the scales now have this pinhole in it. Even if they're not a plus scale, it'll have the pinhole. And again, that started in 1991. So we have the corkscrew, while we have it open there. Now, it's hard to see on this one, but on the older one with our corkscrew, this is a 73 to 1991 corkscrew because it is a fluted corkscrew. Whereas this one is the solid corkscrew, doesn't have the fluting in it, and that changed in 91. There were a lot of changes in 91. Next up, and this is a real telltale for this older one right here. Well, let's go to next. Next we have the chisel, and as best I can tell, this one still has oil. As best I can tell, the chisels are the same. I couldn't find that there's ever been any change in it. The chisel was added in 1985. Next up we have the technician's screwdriver. And the technician screwdriver started in 1985 until now, or at least this particular version of it started in 1985. The original technician screwdriver, which didn't have as much grooves in it and stuff, went from 77 until 85. But this one is the one that started in 1985. So following the technician screwdriver, we have something that is unique to the newer model Swisschamp that the older model Swisschamp doesn't have, and that is the parcel hook. This one does not have that. Currently, any model that in the 91 millimeter that comes out with the scissors now has opposite the scissors the parcel hook. And the parcel hook is one of the only back scale tools that I know of that extends further back than the 90 degrees, allowing it to stand up, act as a cell phone holder or something of that sort. You know, this is great for lifting pots and things of that sort. And there is a different version. The parcel hook started in 1991, and I want to say in the early 2000s they did come out with a version that had a file on the back side of it, but that is only on select models like the compact or some of those. But anyway, so that is a look at the parcel hook. Now this is where there's actually a noticeable difference, and that is the awl. And it's noticeable, but it is also difficult to see probably on the camera. But the cut of the awl edge down at the bottom down here is different. Actually, it's on this side. If you look at them, there's a cut in there, whereas this one is very rounded and comes to a point almost out this far into it, just under the eye. And then on the newer one, it is a diagonal cut, and it's very general. It's very straight, not curved at all. And from my research, what I could find is on the awl is this awl is from 85 to 86. It only was like this for a year, that there was this difference in the awl. And so it is a very tailing item, and that really nails this knife down to that 1 year. In fact, this may be the only Swiss Army knife I have that has this particular version of the awl. And I have quite a few. So anyway, so we can pretty safely assume this is about a 1986 Champion. And like I said, this newer one over here, this is a new one. I purchased this one recently. All right, so next up we have the key ring. And this is another really big difference between these two. If you'll notice that the key ring over here on my left is part of the liner. And it's actually over on the opposite side. It's toward the back side of the knife, the side with your corkscrew. Whereas the newer placement places it as part of the back spring for the cap lifter. And it's much thicker. It's much thicker. I almost think it would work as a glass breaker. One thing that is interesting to look at, if you look really close, on the newer knife, back where the original key ring was, there is still a metal little spacer in there, so the liner's never changed. They still put the same little spacer in there where that key ring was, where that thin key ring was. It's just no longer protrudes out for the key ring. So I found that to be a really interesting little side note when I was examining these really closely. All right, so now we are up to our main blade tools, our main side tools. The small blade is the same on both. There are no tang stamps or anything like that on the small blade. On our large blades, we of course have different tang stamps. And I'm trying to keep everything flowing in the same direction here. On the older model, it says Victorinox Switzerland stainless Rostfrei. And on the newer one, it says Victorinox Swiss made stainless. And as you can see, the newer one has been used. I got a little probably packaging tape or something on the end there. And on this side, on the older one, you have the Officer Swiss with the cross and the crossbow, and the top of it, of the cross, is touching the crossbow string, whereas on the newer one, it just says Officer Swiss on it, with no crossbow or anything like that. And I put these tang stamps on this between 86 and 92, again kind of nailing this down to a 1986 knife based off the awl and that tang stamp. So next up in line, we have the file. And there is kind of a noticeable difference in the files as well. It's kind of it's fun to show this. Now, of course, this is your newer file right here. Kind of see it's stainless, both sides. You can see how the etching goes in at an angle right up here. And then on this end as well. Whereas on this file, let's see here, and I'm trying to see if you guys can see it. It's hard for me to tell if you guys can see it with the light reflections and stuff. You can see it goes down to here and it's straight. And then it's over here, it's more coarse and it's straight. And this, the older file is made out of a different material. Now it does have the nail cleaner. There was another file where it tapers down more on the tip. Here they are kind of side by side. So you can see those. Like I said, you can see where the etchings are different, the way the file goes. I dated this file from 1975 to 1990, and this one here, the current stainless one, is started in 2005. So there's another version that's kind of in between these. And then, so next, after our file, we have the saw. Now, I could not find a date for the change, or I don't know if it's just a factory, I don't want to call it a mishap or a factory differentiation, but the only difference I can see between these two saws is the end on the newer one out here, this piece right here, is longer than the end piece on this one. Now the saws themselves are the same size, they have the same number of teeth, but this one, it's just placed a little different on the cutout of the blade itself. Other than that, I could see no difference. I could find no difference, and I know there are variations of the saw, but I couldn't find any dating for these two being different. So that was the saw. Next up, we have the fish scaler. Now, I checked these, and I won't bore you with the test. Neither of these are magnetized. They stopped magnetizing the fish scaler in 1985. 1985-86, it says. And then that's also when they added the ruler to it. And so these two are the same. And like I said, neither one was magnetized. It doesn't mean you could magnetize it if you want, but you do have the same. You have your fish hook, you have the inches on the one side, and you have your metric on the reverse side. So that's the fish scaler. Now, the next tool that is in here that does have some differentiations is the scissors. Now, the scissors on the older model, I dated these from 75 to 1990. They have the screw, but they're double springed, and then there is no groove for the spring in the back of the handle. And the design a little bit of the tip of the scissor right here changes. On this, you know, it's more rounded than it is on this side. Like I said, on this one, you have the groove on the back side. So the newer scissor started in 2000 with the replacement of this handle coming down, changing. These started in 2005, and or I'm sorry, not 2005, in 2000. And this one here ran from 75 to 1990. So next up, we have another tool with a difference, and that is our pliers. I actually used the pliers on the Swiss Army knife once to take off a bumper. Now, this is, I believe, the second version of the plier. The original version had more of a straight handle, whereas this one has a kind of bows out a little bit. So this is the second version of the plier. And these ran from 87, 88 to 95. I forget when the previous one only ran for a very short time. Again, this one does not have the groove in the back of the handle for those. And you'll notice there's no wire crimper inside here. Whereas on the newer ones, you have the wire crimper on the inside here. And then again, you have the groove in the back of the handle for your spring. And I want to say the handle shape seems to be, other than the change of the wire crimper, they seem to be very close. Now, there is a change also in the rivet, because there's a little indentation on that side of the rivet that this one does not have. The older one does not have. So the next items we're going to go to, we'll skip over, and we'll go to our cap lifter and wire stripper, wire bender, and slotted screwdriver. And this also has the 90-degree stop. Now, that's run from 1980 to current, and this being an 86, also has your 90-degree stop, your wire bender, and there's no wire stripper in the inside of it. And those are the same. And the same goes for our can opener with our smaller fine screwdriver. There is no noticeable difference, nor do I believe there is one. This particular can opener ran from 1980 to current. Then we are at the next tool with a change. And the Phillips screwdriver started, the inline Phillips screwdriver I should say, started with the magnifying glass. That's when it came about, which was 1973 is when that started. And some of those were also magnetized. I don't believe, I tested this one and I don't believe it was magnetized, but some of them were. But then come around 2002, when they started coming out with the flashlight, and they put that in the place of the magnifying glass on some models, but the longer Phillips wouldn't fit with the light. So they shortened the Phillips screwdriver. And now today, all the models have the shortened Phillips screwdriver. According to the Sam's Tools, they say they still have the long screwdriver, but I don't have anything current that has the long screwdriver. Only the older ones have that longer Phillips screwdriver. And these do both have a 90-degree stop. And then our final item we come to is the looking glass, the magnifying glass. I always loved, when I was a kid, I always loved the magnifying glass. Now, as you can see, there's a difference between these two magnifying glasses. The first one, the one with the gray housing, is an 8 times magnification. It started in 1973 and it ran till 2004. Then in 2004 to 2012, they went to this clear plastic housing. And for a while, they actually had a plastic magnifying glass, but they changed it back to glass. But from 2004 to 2012, they did a 5 times magnification. And then in 2012, they upped it to 6 times magnification. Now, as you can see, the glass area, the magnification area, is a little bit bigger on the newer one than it is on the older one. I like the older housing for some reason. There's some reason I like that older housing. But anyway, so that is our final tool on these Swiss Army knife. Like I said, this is the Swiss Army knife, what is it, the Swisschamp. And like I said, I didn't want to do them separate because they have pretty much identical tool sets. They're just from different eras. And in 4 years, this knife is going to reach 40 years old. And I think that's amazing that these have been around for that long. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Give us a like, give us a subscribe, and remember, be nice to each other.